Today, we're going to be painting the Sylvaneth Treelord, tree person, with a winter ice theme. Yo dog, Kenny Boucher here, Next Level Painting, hitting you up on the literal best of all days. On this glorious Friday morning in the Beats Lab, Hollywood, California, hitting you up with another painting tutorial. Today we're going to be working on some more Age of Sigmar models, the best models in the game as far as I'm concerned. They look so fresh. Today we're going to be doing an ice theme, the winter themed Lord. We've already done autumn, we've already done summer. These were Twitch exclusives with a couple of YouTube add-ons. We did the sword and some of the OSL here on YouTube, and today we're unveiling the full studio tutorial of the winter themed Lord. We're going to break it up into several parts. Today we're going to be focusing on the airbrushing all day, every day. We're going to be showing you how to build up that ice theme, how to be creative with our colors, and create dramatic contrast through colors and hues. If you guys are looking for some free swag, some giveaways, and some raffles, you guys are going to want to check out twitch.tv. That's twitch.tv/next_level_painting. We're doing weekly live painting tutorials. You're not going to want to miss these. I want to do a quick shout out to my patrons, Mark, Andres, Richard. Patreon is my personal crowdfunding page, and I can't do it without you guys. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Also, check out thelongwar.net, the fastest growing library and video content related to Warhammer 40k and now Age of Sigmar. Let's do this thing, guys. I'm going to pull out a Minotaur Black. This is Raven Black, and this is some Prussian Blue. This is another Vallejo special. We're going to make ourselves a mix here, making a true blue black. We're going to repaint the primer black of this model, which we use Vallejo surface primer on, and we're just going to basically slightly alter the base of this color to have a little blue in it. This is one of my favorite tricks to making my blacks more exciting, especially if I'm going to be fading that black dramatically into a gray tone. I like to always infuse it with a little bit of blue, and dark Prussian blue is an amazing color to work with. I strongly recommend it. Ancient Chinese technique. So we're just taking all the pieces. As you can see, we have every part of this tree lord that's in a different crazy position. Like if it's an area that like there's literally gonna be a nightmare to paint, I just said fuck it. I'm not gluing it on. And I have these flight stand kind of simulators with just like brass rods in them, where I just use them for everything. So that way I can set it down, move it around, get up under it. Because sometimes people will putty the unit to the top of like a paint pot, but then I have to like pull it off to get underneath it. This right here lets me get underneath the areas. Every area, every surface will be painted with the colors I want. So if you ever like held the model to your eye and inspected it, you'd see I painted it. Now we're gonna grab some Marrow White from P3. We're gonna mix it in just a little bit. A little bit of white's gonna go a long way in a black mix. And so there it is. You can now see the natural blue of our coloration there. That's the blue mixed with black with a drop or two of white in it. Mix it up. Let's start establishing some highlights. And we're going from the bottom up. Knee back up to the thigh. Ankle back up to the knee. Top of the foot. This is kind of my technique for creating interesting and dramatic transitions with an airbrush. I don't like to think about where light would actually hit it. I just like to put the paint where I think it looks cool and dramatic. These are fantasy models. I like them to look fantastic. I don't want to get bogged down by pesky things like light. When you paint with an airbrush, you have the power to make light your absolute bitch. Moving on, adding this new transition, these new highlights to it. And that's why I call them a highlight, I'm not really trying to simulate the direction of light. Right under here where his armor broke, right under his chest piece, always I'm going to do a highlight around something like that. It just looks good, it just gives it that look of sharp, jagged edges. Like, don't get bogged down. Go with your heart, homie. Now we're going to start adding some of these highlights in on the branches, because this is the winter theme dude right here. He's got all these branches with no foliage on them, and we got to make it look nice and frosty, nice and icy. Like, we're almost trying to create the bark. We're trying to almost give it a stone effect, like a slightly like a stony wood. We're not using any browns in this model like we did on the previous two Tree Lords, which we did Twitch exclusive videos for. you can go back in the archives and find those. We are going with a totally different color scheme for this guy. He is the iciest of all the tree lords, or tree persons as they like to be called. As you can see, we're keeping that highlight game kind of weird. You know, we're bringing it back from the points. You know, like we're not going where traditionally you think light would be. One exception might be these branches. We're bringing them the tips. We're making those as bright as possible. And then we're feathering the transition back down toward the base of the head here. Same thing with the shoulders. You definitely want to be subtle with this though, because if you want to bring it to a pure white, you can't just, a lot of people get an airbrush day one, they'll be like, yo, literally it's black and now I'm going to transition to the brightest color. That's not how you do it. You need to nurture that color. You need to pull that color out. So that's why we did the black gray that we used to make this black. And then we added a little white to that. We're making this transition. You know, obviously you can see the theme here. We're going to keep adding more white to it until eventually we're at pure white. And this way, our transitions are flawless. You're not going to see any speckling. You're not going to see any dusting. It's going to be nice and perfectly transitioned. As we move along here, you can see that you can spend a metric shit ton of time here on just one piece. That's kind of where my head's at with these types of models. We're going back to the white, like we said, and we're going to re-intensify this white now. We're going to redo every highlight we just did. But we're not going to undo it. We're adding to it. We're layering on just another piece of the highlight puzzle, making sure to keep our nice, more neutral mid-tone intact so you can witness the transition from the bright color all the way back to that base blue-black that we made. You want to be subtle here. You always want to keep the tip clean. White has a tendency to speckle out, go crazy because of the high contrast that it's known for. I like to keep a toothbrush handy so I can constantly, about every 2 or 3 pulls of the trigger, I just run the toothbrush over the tip of the airbrush, knock down some of that white. This is a real subtle transition right here. Under the cracks of this armor, as previously stated, you want to definitely just feather it in. This is 99% air, 1% water. You're barely putting any paint down on the model, and you're letting the air kind of dry instantaneously. And it's a very thin mix too, super watery. But by barely letting any of the paint through your needlework with a double action airbrush, it's just rapidly drying that very thin white. I never have a problem with this technique with my paints running. You know, obviously it would be a problem if I tried to apply this over the black, it just wouldn't stick. But since we're going over a mid-tone that we've already mixed, good to go. And now we're adding some of that pure white. It's not quite pure white, as you can see there by the spill. It's almost pure white. This is our second transition. It's almost white, but it still has a lot of the colors from the previous stage mixed into it. And the way I do this is I just dump out the paint in the pot, leave a little bit at the bottom, add my color back into it, and then once we go all the way to pure white, we'll completely clean the pot out, and then we'll add our pure white into the mix. And you can see it's getting real fantastic with already this color. I mean, this color basically looks white right now, in contrast to the rest of the model. But once you add that real white, you'll see what I'm talking about. It'll be super icy and super frosty. He's looking good. And this is what I'm talking about, why I don't like to putty my models down on something. I can't get under them without pulling them off the putty. Having this rod like I do, this pin, with a real long pin, especially in the airbrush phase, literally lets me get that airbrush in all the weird fucking situations so I can make that airbrush do work. You know, I'm trying to do as little work as possible on these huge big ass surfaces to maximize my paintbrushing in the later stages. Next is an important ass fucking step. Some gloss varnish. This is a Vallejo product. A little bit of airbrush thinner to help it dry faster. And we're going to mix it down and we're going to gloss this motherfucker up. 2 reasons. He's got a lot of little things that are getting snagged on things. So the gloss varnish is really hardcore protective. Additionally, we are going to wash this model to help us get into those transitions and create those, you know, filler areas, get into the recesses, really augment and bounce off the airbrush when it does. And that system is just augmented massively by the fact that this whole model is about to be gloss coated. Twofer. He's looking shiny, looking awful. I mean, let's look how disgusting models look once you make them shiny, and they look so bad. After that gloss dries, I mean, I'll let that gloss dry for a day, honestly, while I work on other projects. And you can see there we pulled out 2 new washes. It's a blue wash from Vallejo and a black wash from Vallejo. We mix them together 50-50, in this ancient Chinese technique bottle cap lid right there, the water bottle lid. And now we're just washing literally every square inch of this model. We're letting this wash create blends we didn't think we needed. It's going to settle into any area that is depressed or, you know, curved in any way beyond the highest peaks. Because we glossed this model, it's flowing very efficiently into those areas, and it's very easy to wick away from the raised surfaces so you don't get that coffee stain on those nice flat transitions. We put it on the leaves, everything. We're putting it up here on the branches on his antlers. It's going to find every little area it needs to be in order to augment it, and then later we'll come back with the airbrush and just add an exclamation point to how baller this shit looks. Wash is your friend. It's part of the next level painting system. You can see we're just going gangster, man. We're not even hesitating to just pull as much wash out of our little pot there and just dump it on this guy. Because you have time, since it's gloss coated, you have time to move the wash around and manipulate it with your paintbrush. It's not going to just stain the model instantaneously. Alright, moving on. Underbelly blue, this is a great color. This is basically the color we were simulating earlier. But this is, it's going to give us a different look here. So we're going to water it down, we're going to get it in the airbrush, flow improver, everything, and we're going to very subtly reinforce some of these edge highlights that may have been muted down just a little bit by the wash. But you can see that wash did a lot of work to tie these colors in together. We just need to amplify our final highlights. We want this model to look amazing. We want it to be shiny. We want it to be glistening. So you definitely got to go in there and rebuild those whites. And underbelly blue is a great starting point for this. A lot of colors on this model. Now we're going to bring it on these antlers, slowly transition it down. Make sure you have enough water in that airbrush and enough PSI and enough control with the double action airbrush to really just let that air push just a little bit of paint out. Dry super fast. Look at that effect. It's a very interesting transition. Now this is the tricky part. Pull it back from that knee back up to the thigh. Just give it a little pow, you know, just a little pop. Bring it back down to his ankle and his foot. And look at this. I mean, it's magnificent. Same deal on the face. You definitely want to pull it back down toward his head. Give him some definite awesome looking transitions there. Man, name of the game, man. I love exciting transitions and I love colors. I don't like going with muted tones. I like always going with the most vibrant version of a color. So that's why this Winter Treelord was a little bit of a challenge, because of this winter theme. We just had to basically design our winter theme around exciting colors, but still have dark and somewhat muted colors. We're going back to the white, and we're going to rebuild that final pure white transition on the very tips of everything we just painted. Very fast. This should be an easy process. Don't let it get built up. Don't let it get runny. Make sure to keep the tip clean, as previously stated. Easy to fuck up and easy to forget. Just develop good airbrushing habits. Rebuilding that transition on the broken armor. There he is, looking his absolute best right now. Let's go back to Prussian blue and pull that and keep. I mean, this is airbrush day, guys. Now we're gonna build up some of that foliage. After we go, this is a classic technique. I'm gonna airbrush up this cockrobe, but first, I'm just gonna go ahead and give it a nice solid base coat of Prussian blue with a paintbrush. That's honestly gonna save a lot of time rather than trying to do that with an airbrush. Same deal with his beard. We've decided, like, his beard and his simulated hairs and everything, we're going to try to paint some things pure blue and bring those back into an icier blue phase, while his armor is going to be more stone gray with tiny bits of blue in it too. And since we use the same blue base for both these effects, there's going to be a complement and a contrast because they share a mutual color. Same thing with the claws. These tips of these claws, his first digit of his fingers, come in there, bang them out with a little bit of Prussian blue. Like I said, this is going to help big time with the airbrush. Nice thin coat, couple of coats, go in with the detail brush. Make sure you get every area. You know, you don't want to get any overspill. We're going for a clean look here. Now, this is a great color combination coming up next. Vallejo blue-green mixed in with the Prussian blue. And what we're going to do here is just create some highlights on his beard. I mean, no rhyme or reason to it. We're just trying to create something that's a little bit more exciting. We're trying to break up the flatness of that blue, but we're trying to give it that icy, super vibrant tips, you know? We want this guy to look like he's in the tundra. Same deal with the cockrobe. Give it a nice center-based highlight. Don't overthink it. Just let it radiate toward the center, be darker on the outsides. Same deal with the fingers. You don't even have to tape anything off. If you just hold the model in the right position, another crucial reason I have it on this pinned mount, I can hold it any way I want. I like to use my fingers to block certain areas from letting the overspray past. It's looking good right here. Feeling solid about that. Prussian blue, again, we need to establish some foliage. Let's just go through, hit all these leaves on his branches. We're gonna hit them blue, and we're gonna drag some of that blue back into the branch because we want it to be icy and translucent. We're not going for realism. That is not in my arsenal. Not to say I can't do it, it's just not what I like. So once we get all those leaves nice and Prussian blue, go back to the mix. And obviously I should have done this all at once, but you know, shit happens. And now we're gonna make those leaves look icy as fuck. Frosted out. But we're not in a realistic way, in a fantastic way, like you're playing a video game kind of way. This is what I like to do in my studio. Same deal, add them to the back, and you can see how close I'm getting to other parts that I don't want to be blue, but you just gotta find the angles and you gotta use the control with the airbrush. I barely tape anything off with my airbrush. Sneak back here between these shoulder branches, snag some of that blue-green in there, easy mode. He's looking fresh. Look, he's starting to look his best. Obviously, let's pop these leaves out one more notch. Let's use our white tech, pour a little bit more white in the pot. Go with a second coat because paint will dry translucent and it'll start muting over time. So add just a touch of white back in there, reinforce the highlights over everything we just did. Pow. Now it's starting to look real. And look at that. Just a little bit more white. Look at those claws. Same deal with these leaves on the foliage growing out of his legs. Look at his face. He's looking so beast. All right, now here's another technique. We're almost done with the airbrushing phase, so we're going back to the wash game. Same mix as before, a little blue, a little black. And let's wash the cock robe. Let's wash it down good. Make sure because there's a lot of thick fibers in it. Since it's a big model, it has really big exaggerated details. This is a very, I'd be remiss in my duties if I didn't use a wash on this. Same deal with his beard. Some thick grooves to that. This wash is gonna get in there. It's gonna settle to where it needs to be. We're gonna wick it away from the surfaces and we'll come back in later and detail it, guys. Anyway, play on, players. If you like these tutorials, check out Next Level Painting on Patreon. Become a patron of the arts today. We offer early and exclusive access to our videos and a rewards program for different pledge levels. Patreon is PayPal and credit card secure, so you don't have to worry about that. We use 100% of the money to improve our process.